begin?
Oh, well.
Well, this radio slot, which was 10 to 1 just for fun at AM 1130 KFAN, became 9 to noon around 2008, 2007, something like that. And there have been, all right, 3-2. There have been times it has started as the 9:02 to noon show, the 9:04 to noon show. I must concede, for the first time in the history of this time slot, this is 8:58 to noon. 2 extra minutes of the tomfoolery and or skullduggery. Wait, that's a noon to 3. 2 extra minutes of the "This is your We Howl for Profit leader." That's 3 to 6:30. This is 9 to noon, and the Love Covenant somehow, in serendipitous fashion, is privileged to have an extra 2 minutes with you today. For the first time in the history of this radio show, it's like a verbal check raise, or maybe for you it's a verbal gut shot, or maybe a verbal open-ended straight and the right card fell. But the bottom line is, verbally speaking, 9 to noon, we'll take it. 8:58 to noon, scooping chips and more time to talk about the how. I'm Paul Allen, that's Mad Producer. Why is this 8:58 to noon? What happened?
I have no idea. I think they were going to do a phone interview. There was a poker theme to that final hour. They couldn't get your son, Derek Allen, on for some reason.
Come on, man.
And so they just said, well, we're out. They washed their hands of it. All the chips had been pulled, and it was time to transition to a show that cannot wait.
Here it is. Season's on the line. Here it is. Season's on the line. 2 producers left, 2 hosts to the right, and McCown takes the snap. Steps up. He's all by himself. Fires into the end zone with Minnesota Vikings rookie camp beginning tomorrow. Yours truly aims to be there both days, Friday and Saturday. Courtney Cronin of ESPN was set to join the radio show today, but she was a late scratch. She'll join next week. And in chatting with beloved C yesterday about Bears camp, which begins tomorrow. So the Packers have completed their rookie camp, and super special Cinny, the Sultan of Smug, David Syndican, has some business around the neighborhood today, so he will stop by the studio, the 651 Carpets Plus Studios, at about 11:15 to share what he heard, what he saw, what he knows with Green and Gold Rookie Camp. But a couple of big dogs, and maybe the best division in the NFC, or certainly in the NFC, but in the NFL, the NFC North, the Chicago Bears and Minnesota Vikings start their rookie camps tomorrow. And when I was crafting CC unknowingly for next week, I just started to think about that Rome Odunze catching passes from Caleb Williams at Bears rookie camp, and potentially all the scribes could be left all wide-eyed and everything. Now, McCarthy and Dallas Turner, like matching up against Walter Rouse, I mean, that's going to be super sweet. The weather looks like it's going to be beautiful. So the rookies can run around and execute their toil. Ben Lieber will be in studio about 55 minutes from now. So we will request beloved Nacho Harkins to 2002 in Southern California when he was a rookie with the San Diego Chargers, and kind of help us navigate through several things, but in particular, exactly what goes into memorizing plays. I mean, like, if you've played college football, or if you've played football through high school and or college, memorizing plays to some, I would imagine, is second nature. But I mean, I don't know what the levels would be because, like say at Michigan or at USC or at Washington for Rome Odunze, it's like, what level of math would that be moving up to what would, I don't know, be trigonometry 2, maybe a version of calculus when you get to the National Football League and all that goes with it? Is there a human nature switch? Specifically for quarterbacks, but a human nature switch. When you walk out onto a National Football League field and on a beautiful Friday and or Saturday for rookie camps across the Great Divide, you're like, you look at the hash marks and you're like, what happened?
Why are they so close?
What happened? I'm used to, but plays in college football are that the hash marks being as wide as they are change weak and strong side approaches to plays. So, like, this really is something I've never thought of until Spitball Radio 8:58 to noon today. But I wonder what kind of a change that is for these college quarterbacks with these hash marks. What happened? How come the hash marks are so close together? How come my man's not over on the sideline holding up a big square piece of cardboard that has in the left corner Ronald McDonald, in the right corner Russell Crowe, in the bottom left 50 Cent, and in the bottom right Adrian's Barbeau's?
I always love that one.
How come we ain't got that card? I mean, it definitely is a vast and ever expanding change for these kids when they head into rookie camp. But that Chicago Bears rookie camp with Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, that definitely is ballyhooed. Good morning.
Good morning. No, that's why I'm excited for rookie camp this weekend. And Saturday hosting noon to 2. I'm working with the Vikes on having a couple of rookies join me throughout that show.
Oh, you'll be out there?
Well, we're going to be here, but Alec Lewis is going to be joining me, and then we're gonna do all things purple.
Right, I'll be there. So if there's anything I can do to help facilitate, let me know.
Oh, that'd be sweet. Hopefully, we're not only recapping a Game 3 victory for the Wolves, but celebrating rookie camp.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where, and I think for the first time, every single year, there's at least one franchise that is doing their version of how does Caleb Williams look out there. This year, whether it's the Bears with Caleb Williams, it's Jaden Daniels in Washington, in New England, it's the guy that a lot of Vikings fans wanted, Drake May. It's us here in Minnesota, in Atlanta. Well, I don't know what they're doing down there, how they figure that out. Reps for Kirk, reps for Penix Jr.,
right, and
then even Bo Nix in Denver. But dream weaving, like Bears fans who are hearkening back to those elite those elite high end pass.
Honey,
some of those people that threw the ball there in past years.
Stop that. We talked about that before the show.
This is the first time in a long, storied franchise's history we might be talking about the 4,500-yard passer. We might be talking about high-end air attack from that team. So it's not only something that's cool for Bears fans, but it's something we got to pay attention to. It's something Brian Flores has to pay attention to as this division. If we have hit on J.J. McCarthy, if they have hit on Caleb Williams, if Goff re-ups and Jordan Love continues what right now is just this 1-year grand entrance into the opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, how tough is this division? How good are these quarterbacks potentially 3-4 years from now in this division? It's crazy to think about it.
How tough is the division is a wonderful question, specifically given you have no idea how my morning at work started today, and it was completely fine the way it started. It was nice and peaceful, and we're writing the parts of 9 to noon that were left over from yesterday, not written yesterday, and then all of a sudden the cackling covenant began. So I picked up my computer and began to head to the den of the wonderful Wizard of Khan, and as I was leaving, I'm like, Bossberg, second in command. Haven't seen Bossberg in a little bit, and he's here. So I'm going to walk into his office and give him a big hug and just let him know how much I appreciate him as a boss. And we did that, and we embraced, and I was attempting to scurry out of the office. And the only thing he said to me was, last night I took a look at the Minnesota Vikings depth chart. I don't see how they don't finish last in the division.
I always love that one.
Bro, it's May. I mean, that's like a diatribe for August after like they've played some preseason game or games and you get it. But so I don't know how your morning started, man, but that's how my morning started. And then we went through the roster and stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, well, what if Darnold's good? He says, I think he'll be good. And I said, all right, well, what if Dallas Turner, who's favored to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, what if he is the Defensive Rookie of the Year? And he said, I think he will be. And I'm like, how are they going to run last? How are they finishing last if you just said that?
That's how your morning started. That's how my day here ended yesterday. He was on the depth chart yesterday asking me about how to say Grugier Hill and all of that.
Oh, that's right.
Who's going to be the corner?
Hill.
This Kyrie Jackson.
Yeah.
He's one hell of a ham slicer. How does he work in press coverage?
Right.
He was so fired up about the depth chart yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly it is on his mind.
Yeah.
For me right now, all I'm thinking about is seeing JJ. You said it a couple of days ago, cutting through the wind with those passes
with Sam.
down in Egan.
Yep.
And things are going to be good, and we get our first peak starting tomorrow afternoon.
Well, if I'm running a professional sports team, or I'm a general manager, or I'm a coach, or I'm a second in command for a vast and ever expanding iHeart radio station or iHeart media, and I've drafted a player, I would much prefer said player cuts ham than ham glazes.
I always love that one.
Or is into ham roasting, because, you know, the deli trade and executing your toil there is very, very highly underrated.
Well, it's meticulous work, and it's attention to detail, and it's precision. And if he's doing that on the football field, our fourth-round pick, many good things to come.
I see on the on one of the three computer monitors in front of me here in the 651 Carpets Plus studio that Dan Barrero yesterday had Corey Provis on as a guest at 4:30, and with Corey Provis, the play-by-play voice of the Minnesota Twins for Bally Sports North on television. Like, I mean, I just wonder how much, like, the Twins beat the M's yesterday, okay? But I'm box score chasing, or I listen to a little on the radio, or I just look at it on my phone because the option in my covenant is that I can't watch it. I just wonder how much of Twins territory is impacted by this Bally's buzzkill that's transpiring right now, because young Corey is he's in his first year as the TV Vox, and he's replacing a long-standing piece of immortality, and now you can't readily see him. And good morning.
I think good morning. I think the hardest of hardcores have already adjusted. It's Fubo, it's DirecTV. They've found ways.
Right.
And they're also, you just saying that it's not available in my house, whether it's a text message or an email, they'll well, you're out of your mind, PA.
Yeah.
Just get Fubo.
Right.
Just get DirecTV. Just make that change.
Right. I don't want to.
And to that end, I think that's a lot of casual baseball fans.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of casual. Like, if this was middle of the Wolves season, and the Wild still had a chance, and this happens, people are doing the Bally's streaming, and they're getting their Wolves and Wild games that way. They're adjusting, and they're complaining about it the entire time, but they get to see their teams.
Yeah,
that streaming option not available for the Twins, obviously, but the casual fan, you're sitting outside and you're checking out and you're trying to figure out how to get rid of those dandelions in your lawn, and you're realizing it's 70 degrees and the sun is shining. I think people adapt quickly, and I think for a lot of casual fans, they will adapt to not watching the Twins until something's figured out. So I think that's a net negative. But it also might bring more butts and seats to Target Field, too.
Given Dan Hayes from The Athletic joins 9 to noon today at 11 o'clock, 8:58 to noon is in the air. Dan Hayes covers the Twinigmatics for The Athletic, and he'll join at 11. And if that scenario that you presented actually took place, where, there was no Timberwolves during the course of a wonderful season, and given I enjoy fantasy basketball markedly more than I enjoy fantasy anything, then yes, FUBU would be figured out to avoid FUBAR.
I always love that one.
We have timber bites or howl bites or wolf bites around the corner. And there's talkback potential for this Thursday. With these wolf bites, we can present a couple of questions where you talk back via the free iHeartRadio app. And we sprinkle them in throughout the course of today's journey. And also, Timberwolves radio voice Alan Horton, who you will hear on these airwaves tomorrow evening with what should be another Timberwolves victory. And that's part of the Timber Bites around the corner. But that's coming up next, and it'll be followed by the Vox. Alan Horton joining us in studio. I'm Paul Allen. Nordo produces and also offers up the cash thing.
The Fan, along with BigDeck.com, want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword WIN, and you might win $1,000. The keyword is WIN. Just go to KFAN.com, enter it now. Oh.
Alrighty, a Talkback Thursday. If you are so inclined, welcome back to the 9 to noon radio show. And these are Wolf Bites provided by
Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Go to Thousand Hills LifetimeGrazed.com. You can pick up product from your local Coburns, local co-op. But check this out. They're feeding Gopher athletes nutrient-dense grass-fed beef as a proud sponsor of Gopher Athletics and Dinkytown athletes. So when you buy Thousand Hills, you're supporting Dinkytown athletes. It's elite meat for the athlete in you.
Fire in with these if you are so inclined. It's the free iHeartRadio app. For those new to it, Eric, what's the best route of attack for the TBs, the talkbacks?
Yeah, you use the free iHeartRadio app. You listen to us wherever the heck you are on the planet, and you just hit that microphone, and then you just record up to your best 30 seconds. What do you think? Whatever the talker or the opinion is, you send that thing in, and then I have a long list of them. I weed through the FCC violations, and we play some on the air.
I'm watching the in-studio TV now, sound down obviously. Knicks beat Pacers 130 to 121. ESPN is the channel of choice.
Yeah.
And ESPN, Pacers file complaint over 78 calls from games 1 and 2. So that would be a series against the New York Knickerbockers.
Yep.
New York, big city. Boston, big city. Oklahoma City, not big city. Minneapolis, St. Paul. Yeah, smaller market as the NBA would go. Rick Carlisle. Small market teams deserve equal shot. Rob, the Wolves and OKC are undefeated. Are undefeated in postseason.
I always love
There's
that
a mid-market bias in the NBA. Look at that.
Small market teams.
Even least, Denver Mile High. That's not big market,
right?
Is it?
And they won the championship last year.
Yeah, here's what he said, because he had initially decided not to send the Game 1 calls into the league.
Okay.
But he was ejected right at the end of last night's game. And so he decided to reverse that decision. Mm-hmm. I can promise you that we're going to submit these tonight. New York can get ready. They'll see them too. I'm always talking to our guys about not making it about the officials, but we deserve a fair shot. Yeah. So I have no comment on it. I haven't watched either of those games closely. We talked about the final moments of the game 1 before the Wolves tip-off where you had the screen on Turner and DiVincenzo went flopping, but it was a legit foul. I can't speak to what happened last night other than, it's Brunson and Anunoby. Like, they're just handling business right now.
Brunson left the game with what looked to be a broken foot. And, the way he limped to the locker room, I'm like, my man, did you break your foot? But it turned, I don't know if it was a strain or whatever. So he's like out for a while, but then he comes back.
He did return, at
Madison Square Garden in Willis Reed-like fashion. And I was chatting with somebody last evening about Anthony Edwards, and this is certainly in no way to verbally throw cold water on the undefeated Howl in the postseason. And Anthony Edwards and what he is doing or has done, individually speaking, not teams, when it comes to best story, what he's doing and what he has done specifically defensively, it's unbelievable. It's hard for me to not think, with what Jalen Brunson is doing for the New York Knicks, scoring 40 points basically every single game, leaving with a swoon over his foot, coming back and going Willis Reed on it and willing that squad to victory, ran it against a small market team, copyright Rick Carlisle. That is individually, at least for me, I think that's the biggest / coolest story of the postseason. And here's why. Because we're not that far removed from Jalen Brunson being a backup for the Dallas Mavericks. Anthony Edwards has always been good. Jalen Brunson has not always been good. Jalen Brunson is elite right now. He was elite during the season. Anthony's had some elite to him all of his career. Jalen hasn't. Jalen was a backup for the Dallas Mavericks like 3 years ago. So, amen, Jalen Brunson, for what he's putting forth this postseason. Talk back potential for this Thursday. Wolf bites, if you're so inclined. Here's number one. What reason or reasons do we have to believe Denver can win either of the next 2 games at Target Center?
Oh my gosh.
So, just, tell us how the Nuggets can win Friday or Saturday. When the Vox is in studio around the corner, that question is going to be posed to him because he knows more about it than us. Yeah, what reason or reasons in concrete fashion of what we've seen or heard or what we know do we have to believe Denver can win either of the next 2 games here? Talk back Thursday if you'd like. And if you are so inclined, off the first question, about the only way I'd put it, I'd lay it out like this. How does Denver win Friday or Saturday when Murray doesn't seem right? They have Jokic discombobulated. Reggie Jackson has a bad ankle. Their coach hates the body language of his team. They killed them once sans stifle. And said Tower returns tomorrow night. And there's just zero evidence from almost all of the first 2 games to suggest the world champion Denver Nuggets have not been knocked to the canvas and are grasping for air and are gasping for air. So, and secondly, look how this thing's set up. I mean, after you beat Denver and compare it to 20 years ago in 2004 in that playoff run, where the Wolves went Denver, Sacramento, LA Lakers. This year, it will be Phoenix, Denver, and most likely Oklahoma City, who absolutely should beat Dallas again this evening. So, no disrespect to OKC. And SGA, excellent. The SGA and that squad, excellent, fast, panic-free squad, full of a bunch of players who play minutes in the 20s and help big time. And then there's Chet Holmgren, Minnehaha Academy, go crazy. So that's a very nice squad. Very nice squad. Played the Wolves incredibly well this year. After the 03-04 season for the Hal, they played the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals without starting point guard Sam Cassell in the deciding Game 6, and he had a bad back all series. And we're pretty close to winning a series against Shaq, Kobe, Mailman, Glove, Devin George, Augsburg go crazy, and Derek Fisher. OKC is cool, man, but it ain't that monster the Timberwolves hooked back in the day. So how's everybody feeling about this potential NBA Finals run? Are we permitting ourselves to believe anything is possible? They ain't going to get beat if they keep playing like this, and they know it. They hear Stephen A. and Perkins and Woj and Shams and NBA TV and NBA radio saying stuff like, best defensive game in NBA playoff history. Ant is Jordan, Jordan is Ant. Ant is Jordan, Jordan is Ant. Those queries are on the talkback table. And Radio Vox Alan Horton is with us next to analyze so we can hit him with some wolf bites and to continue this conversation around the corner on KFAN.
As we await our guest, Wolves Vox Alan Horton. He's joining us momentarily. A bunch of your talkbacks into the mix, some wolf bites, as we were mentioning last segment. Here's Rudy Gobert talking about winning his 4th Defensive Player of the Year award.
When I won my first one, I remember telling myself that I was hoping to win a lot of those. And every time I win it, I tell myself that I want to win it again. It's an honor. Once again, it's maybe I don't realize everything yet because I'm so focused on trying to bring this championship and focused on the moment. But it's at the end of my career when I sit back and look back, it's going to be hopefully, a lot of amazing memories and a lot of trophies.
A lot of amazing memories indeed. Starting tomorrow night at Target Center, hosting Game 3, the Wolves. Rudy with the fresh baby in the mix and all of that, expected to be back on the court. And if you're going in person, well, expect to pay some cash. Holy cats. I saw this in the Star Tribune yesterday, gentlemen. Tickets running at least $300, upper bowl, back end of Target Center. North of $1,000 if you're expected to be seated in the lower level. And if you guys want your feet on the floor, well, I mean, Alan Horton's got the best seat in the house, so he doesn't have to worry about this. Neither does Jim Pete, side-by-side shotgun providing the analysis. But between $4,000 and $17,000 per ticket to watch Game 3, Wolves and Nuggets tomorrow night. Why you should listen on the radio, right, Alan?
That's right.
And Alan Horton is at Wolves Radio via
If you can't
Twitter.
come up with the $4,000, the $17,000, just tune in on the iHeartRadio app, 100.3 FM. Got you all covered.
Do you happen to remember what you were doing this time last year? Because it wasn't calling games.
No, it wasn't. It's May, so it's uncharted territory for me. Like that's the beginning of summer. It's probably doing a lot of stuff in the lawn. In the yard, in the garage, getting caught up on a lot of stuff that went by the way for 6 months.
Yeah. But what reason, and the reason we bring this up is because set up a couple of talkbacks before you arrived, Alan Horton.
I was listening.
The Vox. What reason? Okay, good. You've had time to think about it.
Yeah.
Well, you've had all week because it's pretty much all you do think about, I would imagine. What reason or reasons do we have to believe Denver can win either of the next 2 games? As strange as that sounds, what reason or reasons are there to believe Denver, a 4.5-point dog tomorrow night, Sunday hasn't been established, but that they can win either in the next 2 games? And good morning.
Good morning. I think you look at the guy who won the MVP last night was Nikola Jokic. Mm-hmm. And there is as much as they have been dominated on their home floor in these first 2 games and have been they have not been able to get set offensively. The Wolves defense has been the story. There's still a healthy respect for the defending champs. They're still the defending champs. They've still got Jamal Murray. They still have Nikola Jokic. And very much like the Suns series, you don't want to let those guys get going, right? You don't want to let Durant, Beal, and Booker. They had the proper, I thought, attitude and game plan heading into each and every one. Don't let them win one. Yep. Don't let them win one. Don't let them get going. And I think the same holds for Jokic and Murray. Don't let them get going. They've done unbelievably well against Murray and Jokic. I mean, Jokic is shooting 42%. Murray's shooting under 30%. Their vaunted pick and roll, which was one of the best in the league, has been held under wraps. They just have not been able to get anything going. But if they don't have, like the Suns, they're so top heavy that they play a certain way, Paul, and they don't have a lot of options to go to, whether it's personnel off the bench, style that they play. They are reliant on Jokic and Murray. And if those two aren't going, they're in deep trouble. Just like the Suns are in deep trouble if Booker and Durant and Beal can't all get going at the same time.
Right.
So the argument for Denver getting on track is that somehow Jokic and Murray start playing calm, cool, composed, not getting rushed, not getting flustered by the Timberwolves defense, and they start executing at a high level.
How about, speaking of seats and what seats cost and stuff like that, how about that sweet seat you and Jim Peterson have at Ball Arena, right next to the bench? Now, I mean, when you call games at Target Center, you're a top, section 131?
132.
Yeah, 132. So you're at the top of the lower bowl.
Yeah.
But when you're where you are, you're right next to Chris Finch. I mean, you're right by Finchy.
So game 1, we were elevated. The normal radio spot is on the second level, and you get more of a bird's eye view than even at Target Center. So it's pretty high.
Yeah.
But game 2, there was no ESPN radio, no national radio. So that spot was vacated, and we got to move down. And that only happens about 3 or 4 times a year. In the regular season, there are only a couple spots left where we're that close. So I was literally 2 seats away from Chris Finch. And I turned to Jim Peterson during midway through that first quarter, and I'm seeing what's happening on the floor. The Wolves defense is in front of their own bench in front of us. And I'm saying, I'm not down here very often. But this looks absolutely downright scary. What's happening right now? The way the Wolves are playing defense. I'm like, is this normal? He's like, no, this is not normal. This is elevated from even the number one defense that we saw in the regular season. I mean, it was just tremendous the way guys were flying around, guarding like heck, and feeding off one another. It's like I see you do that, I want to do even better, and it just elevates and elevates.
Is it a challenge calling a game courtside with coaches walking in front of you?
Yes.
I mean, Finchy goes about 6'6" or 6'5", 6'6", and Mike is shorter. So therefore, and you don't stand up. Do you ever stand up during calls?
Only if I have to. If I can't see, then I've got to try to increase my view a little bit.
Right.
But it's tough dodging all the people going to the scorer's table. And if a coach positions himself almost to half court, no matter how tall they are, they can block your whole view of that end of the floor.
Vox problems.
Yes, Vox problems. You're looking at your monitor, but maybe the monitors... Sometimes it's the reverse angle, so like it messes you up a little bit. Like left to right is right to left, depending on where the cameras are. Yeah. And so it is a challenge. But I would always take being courtside because, as you know, Paul, when you feel like you're a part of it, I think that comes through in the broadcast. When you're just so you can't help but be in the game when you're that close to everything.
So, like, just from that game, okay, if you can just channel what you remember from that game and what you learned and or heard being next to Finch and the coaches and the action while calling that game and like the way he and Mike and Nori and the coaches are navigating this situation.
Yeah, seamless. I mean, they've just rolled with it. So Chris Finch is there. He's pretty much immobile during the game, but instead of the coaches having their cluster, they usually meet at the free throw line, right? Then they go into the huddle and give some instructions or draw up a play. They just move over toward Chris Finch, and Finch is kind of at the end of the bench, so he can grab guys and have conversations with them. It all worked very seamlessly over these first two games. And it'll be interesting to see how it works at Target Center because there is not that broadcaster's table there that there is in Denver. And so I think Chris is going to be in the second row, but kind of right next to where Glenn and Becky sit. There's that little gap between the end of the bench where Greg Farnham, the athletic trainer, sits, and then Glenn and Becky and some more fans going towards the scorer's table. So he won't be as protected. I think that broadcaster's table provided some nice protection just in case someone came flying in. But we'll see how that develops. But, this team just continues. They haven't faced a ton of huge adverse circumstances, but little things along the way where you miss, Carl goes down with an injury, the Wolves throughout the year.
Game 2, no stifle game day scratch.
I mean,
that's 8 of 10. As the distraction factor goes.
And to come out and play like that without Rudy, just amazing. And to see, I got a chance to talk to Rudy for about 10 minutes yesterday, and I'm going to post that interview. You can get it on at Wolves Radio on X and Twitter. It just a really fun conversation about becoming a father, missing game 2, the support he got from his teammates to a man. They were checking in on him. Ant's texting him at 2 a.m. saying, "Hey, how's it going? We got your back." Ant right after the game told myself and Jim that we wanted to do this for Rudy. We knew he was going to be gone. The Wolves had a game plan. And the good thing is, Paul, they kind of knew there was a chance he was not going to be there. So they knew from Sunday's film session at noon. So they get off the floor at Saturday night, and literally 15 hours later, they're in their hotel ballroom looking through film for 45 minutes. Wow. Go to the arena, another hour of practice. Not satisfied. That's what's great is that this team is not satisfied with where they are. They know that, as Rudy told me yesterday, you can't get complacent because the deeper you go in the postseason, the better you have to be, the harder it's going to get. So you can't just kind of coast, even if you're up 2 games to none. Even if you went on the road and won the first 2 games like they did in Denver, they know they've got to be even better going forward.
You mentioned the name Greg Farnham. So his title probably has changed over the years, but like he's the head trainer. He's the certified athletic trainer. I've known Greg in a roundabout way pretty much since I got here in 1998. I met him through Flip Saunders, and it was a little bit after that. But how about his career? I mean, because whether you're and he's extremely kind, very good at what he does, very organized, but to last through all of those coaching changes. Yep. Well, that's amazing when somebody who does that job can last through X amount of coaches.
Yep. Yeah, that's absolutely true. You have to have the trust. The head coach has to have the trust in you. Yeah. And you've got to, Greg's been in this business for so long, and he knows almost every player in the league because he does a lot of stuff in the offseason too, with whether it's Team USA or Basketball Without Borders. So he's getting to know other coaches and other players all throughout the season, all throughout the decades he's been at this. But you have to have a good working relationship with your head coach, with the front office. And I think it speaks volumes to anyone who can last through multiple regimes, whether it's head coaches or front office, because those positions change out an awful lot if you look around the league. And so I think it speaks volumes about, the job he does, because I think they realize he's really good at what he does, but also just being able to manage who your new bosses are and that type of thing in a working relationship. That's not easy to navigate.
Well, with like Thibodeau, you know him markedly better than
I think
us.
Tibbs remembers Greg probably from the first time around. Because Tibbs was an assistant coach. I think maybe Greg was still there in that first 3 years or something like that.
Okay, well, that matters then, because if you believe there's some paranoia to a coach like that, and I believe there is with that individual coach, well, then that can be complete staff clean out. And I'm talking, that could be media related, just wherever you think something's happening that you don't have control of. Well, then we're going to replace it with those we know we can puppeteer or those we know we can control.
And I don't think fans really realize that sometimes when you make a decision to change out a head coach or a front office position, say the GM or president of basketball operations, that usually means a complete clean out of all of your assistant coaches, all your player development coaches, because the new person coming in wants all of their own people in those positions. And it's not just as easy as swapping out a president of basketball operations. No, he wants his own staff as well. That's why continuity in those positions wins in this league. And you look at the coaches and front office people that have lasted the longest, those are successful organizations because they have the continuity. They've got a culture already in place. When you're switching it out every 2, 3, 4 seasons, that spells doom.
What's it like calling games with Jim Peterson? I know you've done it before.
Yeah.
This is different because they're advancing. And as strange as it may sound, getting a pause to sip coffee or water or the beverage of your choice, well, that's rare for you.
It is, and it's awesome because, like you said, we've only been able to do it maybe once or twice a year, sometimes no times a year. If there's national TV and Bally Sports North is not carrying the game, and if we're on the road and Jim's already there, sometimes we'll try to bring him onto the broadcast. But he's such a pro, and he's so, he's obviously, his knowledge is at a level that I'll never get to as a former player. He understands things as a former coach with the Lynx. He sees the game as a coach. And I'm just, a lot of us are never going to get there because we haven't been in his shoes. But he moves seamlessly into radio. It's not an easy transition. And he's very wary of that. And he's been awesome about picking his spots to talk because when the action is going, there's not a lot of time to get some analysis of what just happened because they're already moving back down the floor. So it's really, I feel like it's seamless. It's awesome to have him there as an extra set of eyes and just seeing the game. Part of doing the game by myself that I'm concerned about is that am I seeing everything? Am I catching everything? Now, if I had another set of eyes, that's where you have this balance where, he sees something that I'm not seeing. This is adding to the broadcast. Yeah. So I'm always kind of wary of that. And it's great to have him on board. And we're just, we're cruising. We've never been to this situation. So it was uncharted territory for Bally's not to cover a game because we have not been into the second round in 20 years.
Alan Horton at Wolves Radio via the X Machine. And you'll hear him tomorrow night. Game 3 between the Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets from Target Center. What do you think of OKC? Just ran circles around Luka in the game.
Yeah, I didn't see much of that game. I saw early, and it was kind of back and forth. Both teams kind of just feeling themselves out. And but undefeated now, so they're 5-0 in the postseason. They're playing again tonight. I have noticed that they have continued to go deep on their bench. They're going 10, 11 deep. They're playing Isaiah Joe. They're playing Aaron Wiggins. It's so impressive. And I one thing that jumped out to me, if you ever watch a Thunder game during the regular season, when they do the post-game interview, usually it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 3 or 4 of his teammates will be right behind him, just kind of like nodding their heads, having some fun with it. Chet Holmgren's a big part of that. They will pick apart some of the things that he answers with, and they'll kind of nod their head, and they'll look at each other. Yeah, good point. But I just, that jumped to me because even though it's a silly, small thing, I think it speaks to their camaraderie and their chemistry. And they play like it when they're on the floor. I think Mark Daigneault's a really good coach. They've instilled they're relentless on the floor. They are relentless in what they run. They just keep going and going. And it's if it is a Wolves and Thunder matchup, I'm looking forward to it because I think it's going to be a heck of a showdown.
Pecan.
I wanted to play a couple of talkbacks for you based off of what you had presented last segment, PA. And I do want to start here because I think this is a conversation that bears mentioning into Game 3.
I think last game the refs were really letting everybody play. And if they get a little more touchy on the calls, a lot of our guys could end up in some foul trouble. Big Cat in foul trouble, Rudy in foul trouble. And that could let Denver back into this.
So the way it was posed, and you said you heard it, Alan, is the idea of, how does Denver get back into this series? As dominated as things have been, we got Bad Calf with 1 star. Who knows what Reggie Jackson's ankle's going to look like into Game 4. You mentioned how top-heavy they are. If they're not going, they don't have answers on the bench. So foul trouble, hands were all over people in Game 2, and the whistles weren't coming. And that was part of what we saw in one of the most dominating defensive performances ever. So is it as easy? Would you anticipate or even fathom some sort of adjustment that the refs make as we saw a correction from Game 1 to Game 2? Is there potentially one into Game 3 that I think Mike Inori and certainly everybody on the court has to be cognizant of?
Yeah, I think they're always you're always feeling out those first few minutes of how a refereeing crew is going to officiate the game. You get a sense of what's going to be allowed, what's not going to be allowed. And I think the Wolves have done a really good job in recognizing that. So in Game 2, they saw what was happening. Everything was being let go. It was well, sitting courtside, it was shocking.
Yeah.
Like how much. And I think that favors the Timberwolves. They love to get up into you. They love to be physical. And if you're not going to call it, we're going to play that way. And that's the right attitude to have, right? Yeah. It obviously worked. I think you feel it out in the first few minutes to see what's being called, what's not. It was interesting. Mark Davis was the crew chief in Game 2, and I noticed he was the crew chief for the Knicks and Pacers last night, and there was lots of controversy in that game as well. You just have to feel these things out. The good thing about the way the Wolves have played, yes, they are foul prone because they do like to be aggressive, and Jaden can get into foul difficulty. To that point, without Rudy, the game plan for Denver was, hey, Cat's on the floor. Cat is prone to picking up fouls. He's been prone his whole career and even in the postseason. But Cat did a wonderful job of just staying out of foul difficulty and then making the right decisions offensively, when to shoot from the perimeter, when to drive, not pick up offensive fouls. Yeah. And Jokic was going at him. They were going at Karl and trying to pick up fouls. He did a terrific job of staying out of foul trouble. But when it seems like when the Wolves get into foul difficulty, whether it's Towns earlier in this Phoenix series or Jaden McDaniels or whoever, they just rotate somebody else back in, and if you have to sit for a quarter, you're sitting for a quarter. We just roll with it. That's more minutes for Naz Reid. Hey, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, you're going to be playing more. The Wolves have done a wonderful job of just overcoming some of those small things that happen within a game. Yeah, it's frustrating to see guys getting foul difficulty, but it has not seemed to slow the Timberwolves down at all.
They had some foul difficulty in Game 1. It wasn't terrible, but they overcame it and ran away. And shame on anybody on any team who gets in foul trouble when you're up 25 or more. So that is a factor that I think we'd be foolish to not believe it played into that. So that actually could play into if it's a more tightly contested game, which I just really can't see with Murray's calf. I just can't see how it will be.
So, he's not himself. He clearly is not himself. The frustration level, I've never seen him do the things that he did in Game 2.
Well, when did Cat get his 5th in Game 1? Didn't he have 5 and he had to play for a while?
It was early fourth quarter. He picked up, I think, 2 early in the fourth. He had 2 in the third. And he had to sit for a little bit. And what happened? Naz Reid came in. Yeah. And then with the game tied with 6 minutes left, scored 10 straight points for the Wolves.
And then it got interesting because Cat's the one to whom you're going to go.
Yep.
But and I'm not a big second guess guy. And, I just don't know enough about it behind the scenes with this group. But Naz was on fire. Yep. And he got taken out of the game.
He did.
And it worked.
It did work.
It's unbelievable how every button that's being pushed is working. We have a talk back?
Yeah, I do. But you had me think about that fourth quarter where Rudy with like that 8-foot bank shot. I don't know if you remember that. It put the team up 9. just like little things that could make or break a sequence and how that quarter. I mean, you win by what you did, you get the margin there. But I mean, Rudy with that freaking bank shot
actually had a sequence there where he missed a shot, followed it, slammed it. Yeah. Then at the other end, he played that cat and mouse game with Jokic, who's going to lob it to Gordon. And you never see Jokic mess that up, right? Nobody gets the best of Jokic in that situation. And he stuttered, and Rudy played it perfectly, deflected the pass that led to the cat and one dunk. And then I think it was the next possession that Rudy hit that shot at the elbow where he banked it in. And just a tremendous sequence by Rudy.
But just listen to that with both of you. I mean, I'm not going to say Rudy's bank shot was lucky. Okay, that's a shot. That's a legitimate NBA shot, and he is a legitimate NBA player. But just listen to the details that all of us are unfurling.
Yeah.
So that leads me in non-cocksure, grandstanding cartoon character fashion to say and ask, just waiting for reasonable, legitimate answers, what reason do I have to believe Denver can win either of the next two games? Honestly, it will shock me if the Wolves don't win tomorrow night.
There are still 2 games to go, but this is very similar to the Phoenix series, in my opinion, where we saw Phoenix just, their will was broken. They were broken. Their spirit was broken. Right. Booker's acting out at the end of games.
Like the body language Mike Malone keeps talking about.
Absolutely. And again, 2 games to go, but the same thing is happening with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic.
It's been 20 years since the team has advanced out of the first round, and so I think it's fitting as fans start to dare to dream that something else from 2004 becomes part of the talker here with the Wolves.
Hey, Paul. This is Brian from Walton, Kentucky, near Zimmer Ridge Ranch. 2004 Pistons, don't know if you remember them. I think that was probably the best defensive team to ever play. If we sweep this series, I think we will. If we make it to the finals, I think we will. And I'm going to say a bold prediction. We're going to sweep it all. First team in history. Oh. That will be good enough for the best defensive team in history.
Kentucky dreams right there.
Yeah, well,
I like it.
That's Kentucky bourbon.
Yeah, right, that might be a little bit of that. Because 16-0 would be unprecedented. Even the Warriors went 16-1. That's the best postseason record ever.
Right, and it's you're going to get sometimes delusional, grandiose statements from a lot of people around the country when stuff like this is happening. So, like, I heard some people the other night saying, best defensive performance in the history of the NBA playoffs. I can't say that and either really can they, because nobody can remember all the games in the history of the NBA playoffs, so please. But in the history of Minnesota Timberwolves basketball, which, I quasi-vividly can remember from big spot games and stuff, I can't recall a better defensive performance than we saw in Game 2.
Yep, on the road in a big time game in the second round. Put it all together, and it was probably the best. Yep.
Now, don't speaking of Rudy, don't you just love when he roams by the basket and it all funnels to him and he stifles, changes, or blocks basically everything?
Yeah, and I mean, just the never mind, right? The dribble into the paint, look at Rudy and saying, I'm out of here. And seeing somebody hightail it out.
Right.
We saw it all throughout the season. I enjoy that and the altered shots that Rudy causes even more than the blocks. The blocks are great, but seeing a guy who's like about to float it up and he usually floats it on some sort of low arc, they have to double that and they has no chance of going in.
Mm-hmm. All right,
hey guys.
Time for 1 or 2 more for the Vox.
Hey guys, it's Marshall from Minnetonka. There's a few reasons I thought if Denver could win games 3 or 4. Jamal Murray might get help. Nikola Jokic might learn how to jump. Michael Malone might go to anger Met. Just kidding. There's no reasons Denver wins 3 or 4. It's a sweep.
I have a question for you, Pete. Did Michael Malone channel his inner Earl Weaver in that face-to-face showdown with Mark Davis?
100%. The only thing that was missing is he had no stairwell leading to a clubhouse to smoke the Lucky Strikes.
Right. I always love that.
Like when Don Stanhouse would come in.
It was 80s, 70s baseball going face to face, nose to nose with one of the Wendelstadts, who's Harry is the older one, right? They used to
Eric Gregg.
There we go. Yeah, one of those old school umpires. That's what that reminded me of. I've never seen that in a basketball floor. And there were a lot of things that would normally get Wolves fans upset. Michael Malone not picking up a tee. How did Jamal Murray not pick up a tee? Did you
have to dodge a heat pack down there?
No, we were at the other end of the floor,
good.
so he was missing things all night, so he couldn't even reach us at the other end of the floor.
That's nice.
But what was nice was we didn't have to worry about that because you know what? The Wolves won the game.
Brilliant.
We dominated the game, and you know what? Michael Malone was trying to get a tee, and he couldn't even do that.
Right.
Jamal Murray was trying to get a tee, and he couldn't even do that. It's just
you're getting over the hump.
Normally that comes in a Wolves
Jinxes don't
loss.
exist.
In past years, that comes in a loss, and you're infuriated by it, that everything's against the Wolves. This time, it's the Wolves who are dictating things, and it's all going wrong for the opponent.
Hey, I'm hashtag faith guy, okay? But I also recognize science plays into hashtag faith. So I'm not being hashtag faith guy with this piece of analysis. I'm being straightforward, nuts and bolts science of what I'm seeing and just wondering what are the reasons for me to believe it doesn't have to be a blowout. That they're going to lose either of the next two games. I know Jokic. I haven't said this week, and I don't know it to be accurate, but I just have so much respect for Nikola.
Absolutely,
that he looks tired.
He does.
And I don't want to say out of shape, man. I don't want to put that on the best passing big man in the history of the NBA.
Right.
But there's something that has him discombobulated more than this defense.
I think it's been, this. I've been thinking about this week that they look tired. They look physically tired. They look mentally tired. And I just wonder how much doesn't play into these next two games. But this is just a thought exercise. I just think it's been a long 2 years for them. They made the run. They used a lot of energy, and you play a lot of basketball playing into June. And I think it also speaks to how hard it is to go back to back. Credit LeBron for going to 8 or 9 straight finals appearances. That's a lot of basketball. Credit the Warriors for their run. That's a lot of basketball. I think this team is mentally and physically a little bit tired, and there's no doubt you lose a little bit of your edge once you've already won it against a team that wants to get where you went last year.
That's brilliant. Fire bullets Friday and Sunday. We know that you will, and I'll come say hi at the game tomorrow night.
That sounds fantastic. Appreciate it, PA. Yep. And doors open at 7 tomorrow night, and the pregame gets underway at 8. Tip time's going to be roughly 8:30. Probably closer to 9 by the time we figure out what the slide is and all those kind of things. So everybody be prepared to have some fun. I mean, we've had lots of people listening. I've been tweeting at me, listening all over the country on the iHeartRadio app and overseas, too. Yeah. We had a guy who was on a train from Belgium to Amsterdam. That was back in the Phoenix series. It's weird. We haven't heard from him since, though. So I wonder how the Amsterdam experience is going.
Yeah, shocker, right?
Maybe hear from him next month, probably.
Him and Kentucky Bourbon guy guaranteeing sweeps. And interesting you say about people listening, because you do something early in games that I fully intend to steal during Vikings games when the regular season begins, if I can remember. But it's how you rattle through. Welcome to those of you listening on FM 100.3, KFAN, vast and ever expanding Wolves Radio Network. And the Sirius channel, and like NFL or NBA. So that's really cool, man, how you do that.
Yeah, I try to reach out to everybody who's different ways you can follow the game. And the more people that follow it, the more people that want to. Yeah, it's just great. It all feeds on itself.
You are doing a terrific job. I really enjoy it.
Thank you, brother.
Alan Horton at Wolves Radio. Nacho Libre is now.